Before you can take on grant writing for a nonprofit organization, there are certain things you need to have prepared or ready in advance in order to be successful. In this video, I'm going to share my checklist of 7 things you need to have at the ready before you can begin grant writing for a nonprofit in order to make sure that you can be successful and increase your odds of getting a grant. Welcome, my name is Amber Melanie Smith, and I am a nonprofit founder and executive director of the nonprofit that I started. I have been making these videos here on YouTube sharing all the things that I've learned through the nonprofit experience, from fundraising and grant writing to board management and everything in between. So I hope that you find this helpful. Don't forget to like my video and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I've talked about grants a bit in some of my other videos. When you are starting a nonprofit organization or growing an existing nonprofit, you probably know that grants are just one of many possible sources of funding for your nonprofit. If you're looking for a quick overview of the various types of grants that exist out there for nonprofits, you might want to check out my other video, 6 types of grants for nonprofits. I cover a lot of that there. But in this video, I want to focus a little bit more on the actual process of applying for grants, because it can be complicated depending on the grant that you are applying for. There are multiple things that will make your life a lot easier when you are setting out to apply for grants, and like I mentioned before, in this video I'm going to talk about 7 things. If you can prepare these 7 things in advance, then you can repeatedly apply for more and more grants using these 7 things, and it will just go a lot more quickly, and you'll be able to do it a lot more effectively and consistently. So let's jump right into that. Here are the 7 things that you should have at the ready before you start writing grants in order to be successful. The first thing you need before you can start to apply for grants is your official nonprofit status. And if you're in the USA, which I think most of my viewers are, we're talking about typically your 501c3 tax-exempt status as a public charity nonprofit. There are a couple of opportunities out there for funding or fellowships, like Echoing Green, for example. You can look that one up. That will allow you to apply before you get any kind of official nonprofit status, but for the most part, funders are going to require you to have this status, and they will expect you to be able to prove that you have this status, typically by uploading your tax exemption letter. I know it sucks, because you might be thinking to yourself, well, I need some funding in order to get started, but funders like to make sure that you are an official nonprofit for a couple of different reasons. The first is a logistical one, of course, and that is that having your tax exemption status means that donations to your organization are tax deductible. A second reason that funders will require official nonprofit status before you can apply for a grant with them is because it adds a sense of legitimacy. They want to make sure that they are lowering their risk or liability concerns by funding an organization that has gone through the steps, gone through some scrutiny with the IRS. And a third reason might be because of this sense that when you go through all the paperwork and formalize and become an official nonprofit, you are demonstrating some kind of level of commitment and dedication to seeing your organization and its mission through. The second thing you need before you can apply for grants is your board-approved annual budget for your organization. Your nonprofit's official annual budget is the budget, of course, that shows your anticipated income and expenses as a nonprofit for whatever your fiscal year may be. And you might know that you can choose what you want your fiscal year to be as a nonprofit. Many organizations choose January 1st to December 31st. You can do July to June. It really doesn't matter. But this is the document that your board of directors has had a hand in developing and has voted to approve for the nonprofit. This shows the funders that your board is practicing responsible financial management by having a say in what the budget includes and also taking the time to vote on it and discuss it as well. Your budget will tell the grant maker a lot of different things about your organization. It will share the approximate size of your organization and will also show the ways that you would like to spend money for your organization throughout the year to demonstrate how effective of a planner you might be in anticipating the needs and costs of your organization's operations. The third thing you need before you can begin writing a grant is your program or project budget for the specific thing you are requesting grant funding for. I want to add that this is not necessarily something that a grant maker will require you to submit to them. If you are applying for general operating support, this might not be something they request, but if you're asking for a grant to support a specific program or project, it is likely that they will ask for a separate budget than your annual board-approved operational budget to show the cost of just this specific program or project. So to create this separate program or project budget, of course, you're going to be isolating the costs of the specific equipment, staff, supplies, materials, whatever you might be spending on just that specific program or project within your organization, to pull that out and create a new budget to demonstrate just those costs for that. The fourth thing that you need to have on hand in order to apply for grants is information about your leadership, especially your board of directors. Many grantors, especially in the past couple of years, want to know more about the people behind the organization. And your board of directors is, of course, known as the legal leadership team of your nonprofit, especially in the United States. So you're going to always want to have on hand an up-to-date list of your board of directors members, as well as some additional information about each board member. Grantors often want to know not only how many board members you have, but who each board member is. Sometimes they ask where they live, if they are representative of the geographical service area that your nonprofit covers. They want to know that there is diverse representation on your board, because they want to ensure that they are funding organizations that are inclusive and are representative of the communities that they serve. And some grant makers even go so far as to ask for the professional skill sets or experience that each board member brings to the table, so they can see what kind of competencies your team is able to utilize to effectively execute on your mission. Remember, even if you have paid staff or a CEO, your board of directors is considered the legal leadership of your nonprofit. So grantor might also ask about staff, but I'm seeing more and more that they're very interested in the board of directors. The fifth thing that you want to have prepared and at the ready before you can apply for a grant is your organization's mission statement, vision statement, and history. This includes, of course, your nonprofit's actual mission statement, and also why it exists, what need in the community it was formed in order to address or tackle. And a lot of grant makers also want to see some of the history, at least a summary of the history of the organization, to know how long it's been around, how it has evolved over time, and some of its most large accomplishments. So one thing you can do is have a timeline of your organization's history at the ready, so that you can be able to explain this quickly and just refer to it when you need to for grant applications. The sixth thing you want to have ready to apply for grants is a clear program description and sometimes even a logic model. So this is a couple of different things. For your program description, what you can prepare in advance is a document that has a description of each of the programs that you have as a nonprofit organization. That way, when you're applying for a grant, you can just pull the language about the specific program you might be applying for funding for. And then a logic model is a little bit more complicated. Now, I haven't seen very many grant makers actually ask for the logic model itself, but having a logic model written helps you easily articulate the answers to some common grant questions, like what are the desired outputs or outcomes of your program or services, and how do you measure them? Now, if you haven't done a logic model before, it can be a little bit challenging to wrap your brain around it. I know, because that's how I felt when I first learned about logic models a long time ago. But to put it very simply, a logic model is basically a chart that shows the end desired outcomes of your organization, basically the change that you hope your nonprofit will make in your community or the world, in numbers, ideally, like this many people's lives transformed in this particular way. So it's the outcomes, and then on the chart you're showing the resources that you're going to be investing or the actions that you're going to be taking that you have evidence will lead to those outcomes that you want to see as an organization. So it's basically like a cause and effect sort of diagram in a sense. And having all this written out in logic model format or chart format will allow you to answer these questions in grant applications all about program outputs and outcomes and what actions your programs take in order to get to those outcomes. And a logic model can also be a great tool for training other team members on how to explain and understand how the actions your organization will take will lead to the impacts that you're hoping to make as a nonprofit. And the seventh thing that you want to have ready to go before you apply for grants relates a little bit to that logic model I just described, and that is past data and outcomes demonstrating your success. Having quick and easy access to all past data and metrics and survey results and however you're tracking the impacts of your organization will make it so much more quick and easy to answer this definite question on grant applications, which is all about what are your outcomes, how have you been successful in the past, how will the funding help you expand and grow these impacts. Grantmakers want to invest in organizations that have proven that they are effective and able to succeed. So being able to demonstrate that will give you a lot of points on a grant application. So throughout the whole year, grant applications aside, you want to make sure that your nonprofit has processes in place to be collecting this data and survey results and other things that are demonstrating that your programs are working. If you're still not clear on exactly what I'm talking about or what types of outcomes or impacts might be expected to be seen in a grant application, here are a couple of examples. One example might be the number of people experiencing homelessness that your nonprofit helped find homes, and then the percent of those people who remained in their home 6 months later. So when you can show both sides of that, the output and the outcome, you're demonstrating that not only were you able to reach and serve these people, but that the way you helped them was effective because those people were able to stay out of homelessness for the long term. Another example might be the number of students that your nonprofit mentored or tutored, and then the percent of those students who were able to increase their grades because of your support. Once again, you want to show not just the number of people that you reached, but how your help and your services transformed them in some way, big or small. Another example might be the percent of the people you served who said that they were very satisfied with the way that you served them. You can always ask the people you are helping directly to find out if they felt that your help was valuable to them. Anyway, you get the idea. If you have been part of the business world or marketing world before, you might also think of these types of outputs and outcomes as key performance indicators. So, here's the caveat. If you are a small or brand new organization, this part might be hard for you because you haven't existed long enough to collect a lot of this data. So here's what you can do. You can, at least at the very beginning when you're doing your business planning process to even start a nonprofit, collect as much data as possible and show the desire for your services from your market research in the very beginning. You can also point to other examples of other organizations who might have done something similar, perhaps in another city or region, that have been effective. So you can say, our program is going to be like theirs worked, we think ours will too. So showing a precedent for success. So there you have it. There are the 7 things that you should have on hand and ready to go before you begin writing grants for a nonprofit organization. I'd love to hear from you. Do you do grant writing? Have you done grant writing for a nonprofit? What has been your experience? What helped you get a leg up and all that stuff? Share in the comments below. If you haven't yet subscribed to my newsletter for changemakers, that link is in the description as well. I'm sending out my news, but also social impact trends and opportunities to include grant opportunities sometimes for nonprofits, both in the US and around the world. So be sure to check out that link and subscribe if that's something you'd be interested in receiving. You can also find that link to my newsletter as well as other information resources at my website, foundertofulltime.com, where I'm hosting online trainings for aspiring nonprofit founders. Finally, if you have seen my other videos, you know what I'm gonna say next. Don't forget to check out my group on Facebook. It's called Change the World or Bust, and we've got hundreds of people in there from all over the world who wanna make a difference. And we're sharing stories, tips, and encouragement, and you should come join us. Once again, I'm Amber Melanie Smith. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel, and come back later for another video. Hope to see you next time.